Hello, good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Real Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. India White. I'm so excited to be here with all of you today. So, a couple of things first before I really get started. I hope you guys have had a great day. My day has been pretty splendid. A lot of wonderful things have happened, great energy, very productive. I hope you guys are having the same. I know we've been going through some crazy things in the news. If you've been reading, there's been some tragedies, of course, and my heart goes out to those people, positive thoughts, prayers, and all that good stuff. So a couple of things I want to talk to you guys about before we really kind of get diving into the show today. I've got some announcements first. This weekend, we are going to have an event, the 100 Successful Women in Business. They are having an event this weekend, March 26th, 27th, and 28th. Go ahead and check that out if you can. I think you will absolutely love it. There's a link to register. If you go to www.100swb.com, then you'll be able to register for that event. I'm honored to be one of the speakers at this event. There are so many wonderful people that are going to be there that will be dropping nuggets of wisdom regarding business, leadership, and success. So you definitely want to make sure that you are in attendance. Now, I also want to let you guys know, thank you so much for following me. I went and I've seen many of you have followed me on the Real Talk Show page. You follow me on my Facebook. You follow me on my LinkedIn. Thank you. On Twitter, on Instagram, and even YouTube. Thank you so much. I appreciate that more than you'll ever know. Thank you so much. And I will follow you if you send me your link. Just let me know. We follow each other, right? And also, I want to remind you guys that we are going to be airing this show along with many other shows, or all of the other shows, on the SoulNet WKDH radio station. And this will be every Monday through Friday from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here in Florida. So I'm super excited. You can visit www.soulnetwkdh.com to tune in to the radio. Okay. So you'll be able to see all of the sessions of the Real Talk Show throughout the week. Now, we also are featuring our show. I'm very grateful for this. I just have to find it for us on the Swain Girl Media channel. Thank you so much, Precious, for this opportunity. So you can find it on Fire Stick. The show also will be aired on the Swain Girl Media channel. So make sure you tune in there as well, and you will be able to see a replay of the show. Now, I've said a mouthful. I am so excited about what I've been doing lately on the show with these phenomenal rock stars that I've been able to bring to you. It's been such an honor. These people that I have been bringing on the show in this season have been co-authors of our book collaboration, the Pretty Woman Hustle book collaboration, which is called Pretty, Paid, and Powerful. And so one of these pretty, paid, and powerful rock stars is a phenomenal engineer, a professional entrepreneur in her own right. And so I'm honored to be a co-author with this phenomenal lady. I'm going to bring her onto our broadcast right now. Her name is Tiffany. So Tiffany, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm just looking forward to participating. So thank you for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. And I just want to say hats go off to you. For being an engineer, a woman of color, professional, and successful. So many questions for you, of course. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Tiffany.
Right. So my name is Tiffany Tichy. I'm a senior mechanical engineer. I'm originally from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And so I have been 16 years in the industry with engineering. And then since I'm passionate about youth, I'm a STEM advocate, science, technology, engineering, math. And so I encourage more kids to see themselves in engineering. So why not put it in writing? So I'm an author. I'm a best-selling author of What Can I Be? STEM Careers from A to Z, as well as women empowerment books. I'm so thankful to be able to collaborate with Dr. White. And so it's been great with Pretty, Paid, and Powerful, 40 Days to Empower the Women to Win, and then also Saving Lives While Fighting for My Stories to Empower Women to Win. So I'm also just passionate about encouraging STEM, and engineering is one of the features of it as well.
Now, this is excellent to me, Tiffany. Thank you so much for sharing out. And North Carolina is a beautiful area. I've been there a couple times. I absolutely loved it. You guys have the best of both worlds there. You got some cold and some summer days too. So I think that's great. So you spoke to us about being from North Carolina and how your background is in engineering. Now, where did you obtain your engineering schooling from, your degrees?
Right. So I got my undergrad and my master's degree from the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. And so I got my undergrad in mechanical engineering, my Bachelor of Science in mechanical engineering, and then I got my master's in engineering management. And I went back to back straight after one after the other to finish it. So that is University of North Carolina at Charlotte.
That is amazing. I have a confession. So I wanted to be an engineer, but I couldn't do physics.
Yeah.
Physics, for the life of me, it was like that vectors and like that it started shifting, and I was like done. I was like, oh, I can't do it. But see, I never took physics in high school. I only took physics in college,
right,
at the University of Florida, and at that time it was blended with calculus.
Right.
So for me, that was it. I just stuck with the math, but I commend you. So how did you know like that you wanted to be an engineer? When did this all start for you?
Right. So I initially I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought I could debate and do that and everything too. But when I learned that math and science, my mom was an educator, teacher, and then my dad was an entrepreneur, owns his own barbershop, beauty salon. So they encouraged in the power of education and then working hard. And so we would go, my brother and I, he's a civil engineer, I'm mechanical engineering. And so we would have to go on Saturdays, math and science Saturday classes, academy, and take those. It was fun. I mean, we had to do that before we did anything, but we learned the power of problem solving. And when we realized that math and science tied in with problem solving, my dad had cut somebody's hair who was a civil engineer, so that's social capital. And so from him encouraging, say, hey, you should get your kids into engineering, from us being able to be exposed with the Math and Science Saturday Academy, that's what encouraged us to go into engineering. So that's what I did.
That's phenomenal. Now, did you ever feel like you were an outlier, or like you were just kind of isolated as a Black female in engineering? How was that in grade school, high school, college? What was your experience like walking the halls at UNC? And, you know, did you feel like there were others in your class that looked like you? Did you feel like, you know, were you that one, you know, spot of pepper, or like, you know, what was it like?
Right. So I went into engineering because I knew I was going to be challenged. That's really why I decided to go into it. And also I knew it was a male dominated field, but I knew that this was what I wanted to do and I'm going to make it through. So yes, it was challenging sitting in the classes. I did go to a PWI, predominantly white institution, and it wasn't but so many females in the classroom. It wasn't but so many underrepresented minorities in the classroom. But we did have at UNC Charlotte, we did have it was a high diversity there. And so I took advantage of any opportunity that was given to me while I was on campus. But it was challenging. But I took advantage of any opportunity. And with the help of some of the organizations like NASB, National Society of Black Engineers, to SWE, Society of Women Engineers, just working with them and the organization, it allowed me to be empowered while in the process and not allow myself to get intimidated by whatever environment I'm in. And so I knew I was in a male-dominated field. I knew what I was getting into, but I wanted to break the barriers. I wanted to, against all odds, know that I'm there for a reason. I'm representing. I push that STEM representation matters, because it does. Everybody should have the opportunity to be able to experience and not be discouraged. And that's what I feel is important. So I pay it back. And that's why, yes, I dealt with it. Even in early career timeframes, I experienced having to adjust to it. I'll give you an example, going into a conference room, and the vendor that I worked with, he shook hands with all the guys in there except for myself. And so I had to be assertive and tell him, hey, I put my hand across the table. My name's Tiffany. I'm the responsible engineer. Basically, we're going to make a decision whether we're going to use your equipment or not. And so I think it's just more of awareness and being aware. Because I think he might have thought, and no offense to admins, but I thought he wanted me to probably be taking notes and doing that. But I'm an engineer. I got the degree. And so there are times where I have to sometimes challenge the so-called norm and break the barrier. So those are just some of the examples of it.
That is fantastic that you said that you have to challenge the status quo, because people, when they look at you, you're in the room with a bunch of guys, they probably think you're the secretary or you're the, you're just helping out. You're an assistant. They don't want to accept the fact that you have the mantle of an engineer on you. You put in the time, you put in the merit, like you deserve the same honor, the same pay as we've been talking about here, women in pay. You deserve the same that they are also achieving. And so with that said, I wanted to share with you some facts that I found very interesting regarding engineering. So listen to this. Only 20% of all engineer degree holders are women. Only 20%. Less than 4% of bachelor's degrees in engineering are granted to women of color.
Wow.
How does that make you feel?
There's still work to be done. And my the quote I say all the time is Shirley Chisholm, Congresswoman Church. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And so there is work to be done. The statistics is just that, statistics, but we've got to break the mold. It lets you know the numbers. The numbers don't lie. You see those numbers, and it's like, why is it that way? And so representation matters. We've got to get those numbers up. And so it just says work needs to be done. There's more work to be done. And having a seat at the table, having a voice, being heard. And I think that's the biggest thing that's going to help.
This is so powerful. So I know you talked about how you had those classes growing up on Saturdays. When you were in class, as you know, a high schooler, and you were taking the SAT and the ACT, talk to us about that experience and talk to us about your math classes that you took in high school that prepared you for this task, and what was that experience like in your class?
So I will say, I'm not the best test taker. I'll admit it. I do second guess myself. And so with the help of those math and science Saturday academies, we was on the campus of Winston-Salem State University, and we would have those practice exams. We would have tutoring as well for the SAT prep and stuff too. So that helps. Exposure helps. Access helps. I was thankful to have parents that blessed me to be able to be exposed with the educator. My mom, she didn't play that. So when I talk about the math classes, I had that mama who would go into the schools and talk to that teacher. She's like, no, not my baby. She's just as smart. So she did have to sometimes challenge some of the teachers. Geometry class, the pre-calculus class, she didn't. She said, no, my baby's just as smart as all the rest of them. And so I am that one that asks questions in the classroom. I am that one sitting in the front of the class. Growing up, I had the glasses. I had those glasses. I traumatized a little bit, y'all. It's fly now. It's a lot better now. But I guess you could say a nerd, but I was one who was well-rounded. So yes, the math classes was tough. But I was asking questions. I was in the teacher's face. I was asking, making sure that the teachers knew I wanted to succeed in that class, and I would do whatever it takes. And so I was that curious one, despite the boys in the class, where a lot of times you talk about third grade is that prime time when they decide what's going to happen with that kid. So starting off early is key to exposure. So by high school, your grades are important. That's what's determining what's going into colleges. And so I knew that was important. So I made sure I took some math classes that was going to make sure that I was in the place where I needed to be able to go into the college, especially with engineering itself.
Wow. Amazing. I mean, I'm honored. I'm impressed. I could not do it. So my hat goes off to you. This is amazing. And so were you like the only Black student in your classes when you were in high school and middle school?
No, I mean I went to a. It was a combination. I had it was a diverse, but it's still sort of segregated. When you I look at my class photo, it's still segregated somewhat. But at the end of the day, I will say that I was well rounded. I played the instrument. I played the saxophone. I was in the marching band. I yeah. I played sports. So I dealt with basketball, hurdles, with track and
Yeah.
everything. And then of
Mhm.
course I was on the yearbook committee. I mean, you name it. I was. So that's probably why
Excellent.
when people look at me like she's in a lot of stuff, but I was already doing it already.
Yeah.
But it made me who I am as far as being well rounded, knowing that I could work with anybody, any race, any gender, to be able to
Exactly.
yeah. And so that's really what I took from my experiences. As far as the classes, as far as sitting in the classes, it was a diverse group for the school I went to, but
And
I was well rounded.
your teachers were supportive, or did you have any naysayers?
Well, like I said, I had my mom come and talk to some of the math teachers, so there were some challenging the teachers. The stat, yeah. I will say, you know how you say guidance counselors. I will say I don't really think anyone really pushed me to be an engineer, and so I'm thankful that I was exposed to it. Through, like I said, my dad cut somebody's hair who was an engineer. My mom with the educations, but being exposed. But I wouldn't say I had somebody say you could be an engineer specifically while I was in schools, technically.
Right.
But with the math classes, the science classes, being good in those, I think helped push me to want to do it. So
Excellent.
the teachers was there. I shout out to my school as well as far as that experience itself. Definitely in Winston Salem.
Excellent.
Mount Tabor
Beautiful.
High School.
I'm very happy to hear that you had a positive experience and
Yeah.
that they helped you to soar. They pushed you, which is
Yeah.
what schools should be doing. So it's excellent to see that their hard work also paid off as well, and that you're now able to pay it forward as an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to talk now, Tiffany, about another statistic that I was able to see. Only 2% of Black women have a career in engineering.
And I see that you got it from SWE, which is Society of Women Engineers,
Yes.
which I'm a member of as well. That is, the numbers keep going down. 2%.
Yes.
2%.
Talk to us about what you're thinking about this. Now, I'm going to give you the floor.
Yeah, there's a need. I mean, to see that there's only 2% of Black women in the career of engineering, there's a need now more than ever. We're breaking the barriers. Representation matters. STEM representation matters. But it just makes me want to say, okay, I'm here to try to encourage more. We've got those that's already engineers, those that's already there. Try to encourage these parents, educators. Try to encourage these kids that they can be it too. And that's been the biggest thing of what I've done. And it just shows that there's still work to be done. We gotta break the barrier. We've got to know that we are just as capable and competent to be able to succeed in engineering. So it just makes me want to just say, okay, come on, let's make it happen. Women, we got this. We can do this. And men, we got to try to encourage, be the allies to encourage more to be in engineering. We got to work together. Because working as a team is what I've learned in engineering. And you don't want all the same thought process when you talk about teamwork and trying to get the job done. So by having more of the percentage, it's going to help encourage from a diversity and inclusion standpoint. So I see it now with companies that now more than ever, we're pushing it. And so with seeing that number, I know we can do so much better. Definitely more than 2%. So thank you for sharing that number. It just makes me want to be fired up to say, come on, ladies. We got to step it up. But men, we got to be able to you got to be allies. You got to come together and work to make this where we can work as a team so we can succeed in whatever we're trying to do to make a difference. Because that's what engineering is about. We're trying to make a difference.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you sharing your heart with all of us. And, I wish I had a friend like you. But, I love teaching and I love what I do in education. But it's just an honor, like I said, to be among an engineer like yourself and to pull wonderful facts from, the organization that you listed there as well. And And listen, I also found some other facts here. It says that 1 in 4 women in engineering leave the workplace every 5 years. So, can you speak to that? And what do you think's going on there?
Ironically, I guess I did leave. I moved to another company within 4.5. It's ironic. So maybe I am a part of that statistic. Oh my God. But it's sometimes you just know when it's time for a change. And that's what probably happened with me. You want to make sure that you are getting challenged in whatever job you do. It's 1 in 4. I mean, it's the biggest thing is, are they being uplifted? Do you see development? Do you see promotions? Do you see opportunities? Are there recognitions going on? Is that encouragement piece? Is there mentoring? Is there sponsoring? It's a lot of factors when it comes to dealing with the workplace, especially as a female engineer. I want to push the importance of mentoring and sponsoring. Mentors are those that advise. Sponsors are those that are speaking for you on your behalf while you are not in the room. So they're like advocates.
Wow.
And so if we could get more women, get more of mentors and sponsors for these women, I think that number could be better as far as the long-term frame of working. Now, I'm going to let you know, generations are different too. We can talk about generational differences. A lot of the things plays a role when you're talking about changing workplace too. And so generational differences probably plays a role with it now more than ever, of being challenged and wanting different experiences plays a role with it. I think if also there's a rotational program, I think that would help too within the company. So if maybe if women or individuals could get exposure from other departments and groups and challenge from different work, I think that would help that number too, increase the time frame of that job as well.
I think so. And I don't think that I don't think that it's that they're incompetent, but I think it's more so like you said, they need challenge and they need to feel valued. They need to feel appreciated. And, as women, we would like to feel appreciated. And I can imagine being in an environment like that, where it's a lot of mental strain and a lot of mental energy already, computing equations and making things happen, and not getting that support or that affirmation that you're doing a good job, or a simple thank you for showing up and doing your part. And I think so many leaders in general, they need to understand the value they bring to the table when they are able to uplift. Speaking of that, listen to this. Some of the challenges that women in engineering face include feeling disillusioned, gender and racial stereotypes, biases, and negotiating salaries and benefits. Like, they're going through it, and it's tough. They don't know. I mean, it's tough if you're the only female in a room, or one or two out of 30 people, and you're trying to negotiate salary and benefits. What's that look like?
Right.
Talk to us about how you were able to navigate maybe through some of these challenges listed here. And then
and what came to mind as we was talking is imposter syndrome. Women deal with that. Men can deal with it as well. But a lot of times we deal with imposter syndrome of whether you're worthy of being in the room, whether you deserve to have that accomplishment. So it comes down to sometimes dealing with that when we talk about some of this aspects of delusion, the gender racial stereotypes and biases. A lot of times it's whether you feel you can be your worst enemy too, as well. But you do sometimes have stuff going against you for the biases and unconscious bias that plays a role with it. And that's the thing we have to deal with, especially in the workplace itself. Negotiated salaries and benefits. When we talk about the pay gender gap, that's key. You see those percentages and the numbers of how much a female versus a male, and then when you go to the races from that breakdown, it's still a challenge. So the challenges are there, the barriers are there, but we've got to be able to break the mold and put it for what it is, say for what it is, and say we've got to do better. And I think that's the biggest thing when we look at all these breakdowns of things that's going on. I've learned to just make sure that my voice is heard in the company. I try to be a mentor. I try to be mentored. I try to pay it forward. I think that's the biggest thing. But taking on projects, making sure that you're being seen and that you're getting the job done. I think that helps as well. But you don't want it to be any barriers to push you against it. So speaking up, being a voice is also important. So they know what you want, and it's also important. So yes, these are some challenges. I can't say I've dealt with them, but I'm learning that I've got to continue to know what my why is. My why is I'm here, I made it, and I don't want anybody else to not know that they can do it too. And so the representation matters. I'm here for a reason. I'm represented as an engineer for a reason, and I want other females, I want other underrepresented minorities to see that they can do it too. And so that's my why, because I'm making a difference with the field itself, and I just want more to say that they can do it too.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any like really cool projects that you worked on as an engineer that you wouldn't mind sharing about?
Right. So, I mean, I traveled some with the jobs, and so travel plays a role with it too. The exposure, the opportunities, perspective of life, and while you're working. I'm in the energy sector, and so I've dealt with projects where I'm designing equipment. So one of the projects is one that hasn't been built in 30 years, the power plant itself. So I know that I'm making history. So the project to see that it's coming along, and from that end, and I played some role with it. I think that's what's made my day with the project works that I've done. So a lot of times I'm just thankful that I'm making an impact. Even if I think it's wins, small wins help me feel better. At least that's the thing. So every day when I go, I just know that I'm making a difference. I mean, like I said, I'm in the energy sector. So the power that's being generated, the lights that's being turned on for people, I mean, I know that I'm making an impact with it. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, I wanted to also highlight for you. Well, before I highlight this, did you have any advice for women aspiring to become an engineer?
Right. Like I said, get a mentor, get somebody who can advise you. You can be diverse with your mentors. Get someone who's a male, get somebody who's a senior female leadership, get somebody who knows how to deal with, they say not work-life balance, but work-life integration. So they know how to integrate with all that's going on in their life. So those aspiring to be women, just know, don't be afraid to ask for help. I was challenged while going through the process of engineering in college, but I took advantage of all opportunities. I got tutored. The chemistry, I had to take chemistry. I had to take calculus 1, 2, and 3. And so it was not easy. But the thing is, I'm telling women that is aspiring to become, that you can do it. Girls, you can do it. And don't let anybody tell you differently. I tell a lot of people, those that tell me I can't, that just pushes me more, that I'm going to make it. And I'll tell you, I end up being, I might have been challenged a little bit with the process, but I ended up being the commencement speaker for my graduate. When I graduated from my master's degree, I ended up being a commencement speaker.
Oh, wow.
So when people tell me I can't do stuff, it just pushes me more like, okay, I see you. But I want women to be inspired and say that they can do it too. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Ask for help, get a mentor, get a sponsor, get somebody, start building your sponsor, somebody who can go in that room while you're not in there. I think it's the biggest thing. And just know you can do it.
I think that is so powerful. I was watching a segment from, I think his name is Anthony. He's African-American. He has a show. And he was talking about things like having a seat at the table. Mm-hmm. It was like, I think it was like called like Black Panel or something like that. And it was just very controversial. And he spoke about that, like having people to advocate for you.
Yes.
I think that is really the deal breaker there. And I think that when people do that, you know, it really helps to really bring a priceless type of worth and or value to the table for that organization, especially when you're talking about representation and diversity and, and climbing up the ladder and, you know, promotion, and because it's challenging the norm. But, you know, if they really go with their heart and they see what's really right for that company, like in your sake, they'll see that it really could benefit them to have that differentiation and that diversity at the table. So,
And let me tell you, I've been blessed. I always give back. So not only do I give back to the youth, I also give back to my university as well. So I'm honored because there's a need for diversity. I'm actually the diversity chair for my College of Engineering Alumni Council. But then I was just asked to be on the College of Engineering Advisory Board because their dean, he came and asked me, he said, there's a need for more diversity. And so he saw the work that I'm doing, which, I do the work for not recognition and stuff because I just like to give back. And so from the story that I tell, he was like, we need you on this board, Tiffany. I've heard so much good things about you. So to be asked to represent, so there's changes happening. It's just, you got to be that voice. You got to be that one. So then you can advocate for others. So by being able to represent in the diversity aspect, I'm able to look out for others. I'm mentoring 3 young ladies at my school,
very nice,
African American females. And so every month I get on our call. It's a group call, and I just try to encourage them. Say, okay, who's been looking up for internships? Who's been looking for who's been networking? How's your classes going? And so I've been partnered with the mentorship program with the 3 of the ladies in African American females with the mentoring program. So it's just key. I think representation matters, and being able to be that voice is good.
So I hear you say representation matters. When did that really hit home for you?
Ooh, this is good. Because I look back at just my experience, even just growing up. Like I said, I was active in a lot of organizations, but I saw the value of being able to network and be well-rounded. But when I got into the classroom and sat there, and when the teacher says, look to your left, look to your right, now everybody's going to be there, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm about to represent. I am going to graduate. I'm determined. So I think that's really what it hit home, sitting in the classroom in college, and that first readout class, which is chemistry 1251. When they try to tell you can't make it, but when the professor says you can't, like I told you, when somebody says I can't, that just pushes me more. And so I'm thankful. And I tell people, yes, I've got the degree, and can nobody take it away from me. And that's what I can say. So representation matters when you know that you are capable of just as competent and capable to get what you need from from STEM itself. So yeah, representation matters. Having a seat at the table, Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm, if they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. So representation matter hit home when I sat in the table in the classroom and said, okay, I'm gonna make it. And that was my wake-up call then.
Wow, that's so beautifully said. And you just have such a confidence exuding from you. I love it. And so
thank you.
It just made me think of this. So I did some more digging, same site, and it says tips for navigating waters as a woman in engineering. And it said to have mentors, confidence, utilizing colleagues and coworkers, and also support from family and friends. And looking here, it seems like we have all of that. And for those watching the show, feel free to comment. Feel free to give a shout out to Tiffany for this phenomenal show. And if you have any questions for her, feel free to put those there, and I will be able to highlight those throughout the show as well. So Tiffany, go ahead and speak to us here about how true these tips have been for your life as an engineer.
And all of that is hit home, and it's true. And I probably have said it throughout all this you've asked me, and it's just ironic. I said, get a mentor. And then you're saying I'm exude confidence. And that's that whole imposter syndrome. Exude that confidence. Fake it till you make it. Just don't let nobody tell you can't. It's why I'm like, okay, I'm gonna still make it through. It's not gonna be easy, but I'm gonna show that I'm capable as well as getting it done. There were some nights where I was crying. I had to call my mom, like, oh God, I don't know if I'm making it through this class. But at the end of the day, I'm confident where I'm able to say, okay, I got this degree. I'm gonna make it. Utilizing colleagues and coworkers. Remember, I said, don't be afraid to ask. I learned that now, just even with the career itself, we have to work as a team with the project work that I do. You got to realize you got to be able to work together. So I'm working with other engineers from electrical, I'm mechanical, you deal with civil, you deal with different departments. So being able to work together is key. So you got to utilize your coworkers and and then that support system, I can say I definitely I've been blessed. Like I said, my dad passed away 13 years ago, but I was thankful for 25 years of my life to be able to, he was able to see me succeed and be able to succeed from that end. So support, I thank God, support my brother. I didn't get to talk about him much, but he's a civil engineer. And so Me and him, we've been rolling together with this STEM journey. And so, so support. I definitely have my family and friends from the different organizations I'm a part of. I've had the support. So yes, women in engineering, if you can have all of those, I think that's key. And that's really, I've been a part of it, and I'm just thankful that I've been able to utilize that within my life.
Wow. So tell us, how have you been able to navigate through the lack of support, maybe in your career? Have you ever faced a roadblock? And
Well, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
what do you do? Like, you're up against a roadblock, whether it's, someone, I don't know if it's a colleague or if it's a project that seems impossible.
Right.
How have you navigated through those waters?
Like I said, it's been challenging. I went into engineering because I knew it was going to be challenging. And it was a male dominated field. So going out into the construction site, I've gone to do that. It was a challenge a little bit. I've been used to the office setting. So I will say it came up against me being in the construction side. And I was like, is this my fit? Like, do I fit here? Like, and then having, that was an interesting experience. And so, so adjusting to the environment, I think has been one of the things where I have to stand my ground, especially as a female, and show that I'm just as competent. Has been the biggest thing of trying to tackle. I feel like sometimes we have to try to prove ourselves, and it's unfortunate. Like we have to do even more just to show that we're capable. And so I have had to deal with that aspect of it. But it makes me feel good when it all said and done that I contributed and I made a difference with it. And so that's the biggest thing that I could take away from, even with all the barriers, even with the challenges that come. Because I sometimes do feel like I'm getting challenged. Everything's coming all different ways, but it makes me stronger. I'll tell you that. It makes me stronger. I've learned perseverance. I've learned resiliency. And I talk about that in the book, Against All Odds with the Power. Yeah, I definitely talk about resiliency and just the power of it, unleashing it, because we all have it within us. And that's the biggest thing that I've learned while going through it. So despite, once again, somebody saying me no, somebody coming against me, I still go back to my why. Why am I here? Why did I choose this? So
that's so powerful. It's like, it just reminds me of just being an eagle, like yourself. And, eagles soar alone sometimes, and you just got to keep flying. I always talk about, the eagle that's soaring, minding its own business, and then the crow has to come through and peck the eagle while it's just trying to get to point B. And you'll have that in life. So tell me about, how have you been able to navigate through your haters? Like, people that have been just trying to stop you, whether envy, jealousy, malice, plotting, sabotaging. How do you keep such a positive mindset and not allow that to get to you?
Yeah, a lot of times you got to purge. I've learned to purge. I'm not about that. I'm not about that negativity. I don't try to surround myself by negativity. I surround myself by circle of influence. Your circle of influence is important. They talk about that. If you're the only smartest one in that group, something's wrong. You need to be challenged yourself with who you're surrounding yourself with. And so that's the biggest thing is I surround myself by a circle of influence, positivity. I'm not about that negativity. If you're not trying to better yourself, I'm not about that life. And so I'm all about surrounding myself by positivity. And of course, you come with haters. And I've learned that through every test, you're going to have a testimony. And so I've learned nothing's going to come easy. And I've learned that stuff is not going to happen overnight. And so, yes, you're going to have people coming at you, coming different ways, but I remain humble. And I think that's the biggest thing. I've learned to just remain humble because anything could happen to you. Anything could happen with COVID happening, unemployment happening, anything from the drop of the, it could just change, just like all this happened. And so I've learned to just appreciate life. Like I said, my dad passed away 13 years ago. I looked at life differently. I embrace life. My motto is living my life like it's golden. And so when people see me doing what I do and saying positive, it's because I just embrace life. And so that's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me going. Just knowing, regardless, you're gonna have haters. Haters come, but it just means you're doing something right. And that's how I look at it.
Something right. I know my bishop said, he said that you have to see yourself like a tree. Like it talks about in scripture, it says you're a tree planted by water, right? By the rivers of water, whatever. And he talked about how, like, depending on how much of an impact and an influence you are, what type of birds can land on you and grow and feed from you. And, you know, like, what fruit can you produce for others, you know, because the fruit you're producing is not for you, it's for others. And so I just thought that was very powerful. So sometimes I'm like, hey, maybe, you know, if somebody's pecking at you, maybe it's just one of those crows, you know, kind of get
And I say that because I'm all about my service. And so when I talk about service and giving back, that's all my mindset is. I ain't trying to take from anybody at the end of the day. I'm about making sure that I'm paying it forward because somebody else paved the way for me. And so that's a lot of times what I'm thinking about with the work that I do. So of course it comes with everything coming at you, but I stay focused. I stay the ground is just focused. And I think that's the biggest thing when it comes to it. I wanted to put the quote again with Shirley Chisholm. She's my shero. She says, service is the rent you pay for the privilege of living here on earth. So I keep that in mind with life while I'm here. And so that's what I'm about. And so I don't pay any of that in mind. And I try to surround myself with positivity because I got a purpose. And I'm not about somebody trying to keep me from doing my purpose here on earth.
That is phenomenal. And, you know, if you guys are just joining the Real Talk Show today with Dr. India White, I've got on the show here tonight, Tiffany. She is an author and an engineer doing some fantastic work. And so I want to now talk a little bit about her books that she has released. So I see some books behind you there, Tiffany. I would love for you to begin to tell us about your journey as an author. How did this all unfold? And talk to us about this.
All right. Well, as I said, as an engineer, as a female engineer, African-American female, I talk to the kids all the time. You could be an engineer. You could be this. You can do that. And a lot of them, they've never met an engineer. So by the time I've gone and done the talk and I've talked to them and said, hey, now have you met an engineer? So like all hands should go up. So I said, why don't I put it in writing? Why don't I put this in writing so then they can start seeing the representation and the importance of it? So I saw a challenge on Facebook, Crystal Swan Bates, and she said, this is a challenge to see how you can get your best-selling book. And so from there, she taught us the publishing piece. So I self-published and I learned the process of putting it together, working with a book team, staying in my lane. Like I don't know how to draw. So working with an illustrator. And so working as a team is important. And that's probably a part of that whole engineering. I thought I could rhyme. Well, no, I don't know what I was thinking, but I did not know how to rhyme. And I said, I don't have time to try to figure out how to rhyme. And so, so the concept came together and I was able to come up with what can I be STEM careers from A to Z. It's children's book, 5 to 8 year olds, encouraging them to see themselves in the different STEM careers. I didn't want to stick to just engineering because I want to make it where STEM, which is where you talk about those percentages and numbers, it's just this low a need for it. So I said, let's do STEM. Let's show them the different opportunities. So I show a lot of times you don't hear some of these careers. Statistician for the math. Of course, you got doctors, scientists, biologists and stuff too. But I couldn't use some of those letters. It's an alphabet book. So I couldn't use some of the same letters. So instead of a dentist, sometimes it's a doctor, I got a pediatrician, I got a veterinarian, I got so that's my book. What can I be STEM careers from A to Z? And so that's the children's book. That's what I started with. So of course I have that in Spanish, French, and Swahili translations. And then I came out with the coloring and activity book. And so I said, okay, I love the kids, but I got to empower my women and girls and women. So I'm then buy that book. So then I said, okay, let's go with the women empowerment side of things. An opportunity happened where anthology, I didn't know anything about anthology, but with the help of Ayana Mills-Gowan, she had an anthology opportunity where we basically collaborate with other women and we tell our stories. And so Saving Lives While Fighting for Mind, Stories to Empower Women to Win is an anthology book. I tell my STEM journey. So a lot of times in any of these books, I'm telling my journey. I'm telling it through What Can I Be? I'm telling it through Saving Lives. And then definitely with the Pretty Paid and Powerful, I'm telling the story of being resilient against all odds, unleashing the resiliency within, and that's my chapter in there. So I'll tell about that, especially with my journey with engineering. So that is my journey. I've got about 7 books, and so
congratulations!
Thank you. So it's just been a journey. Thank you. So the sky's the limit. being in a book, writing a book is empowering. I built it to build my credibility with STEM. People know me for STEM, and I'm passionate about it. So mostly with all these books, that's what I've been encouraging to tell my story. Right, being an author is a business. I had to learn that too. And so it's been a journey from it. So these are my books.
Fantastic, and I hope you can get to 10 books.
Hey, we're claiming it for the year. Yeah, the year's not
right.
over.
That's right. And it's so funny because once you write that one book, it's over. You're not going to stop writing books unless you just don't have time. It's
right.
It really, once you understand it, it really just takes off. So I commend you, and I'm very proud of you, and I congratulate you on your books. And I definitely have to get with you about that STEM book because I need my daughter and my son to be reading that tonight. So
love it. So definitely, if anybody wants to know, tiffanyteachy.com, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, you name it.
Excellent. Wow, that is fantastic. So, and I know you're also with the Pretty, Paid, and Powerful, which you also spoke about. And so how has all of this, with all of your 7 books and everything going on, like, I mean, just how have you been able to juggle all of the success, work and life balance, and just continuing to move forward?
It's a work in progress. Like I said, becoming an author is a business. And like I said, I love the work that I do as an engineer. I love pushing, making a difference, of encouraging and representation. It makes me feel better that I'm doing it also with the books itself. So it's like a collaboration of me telling my story, going through the journey, and then telling my story and encouraging others. So it's like a whole process, but I'm just learning to just integration, not balance, but integration of how can I integrate life with all that I want to accomplish in life. And it just comes with the territories. I know that I'm making a difference, and I just have to go back to my why. Why am I doing it? And just know that I'm helping others. And it makes my day when I see people, when they post and they say they've enjoyed the books, and then just see my day when I've talked to one of those kids I've talked to, and they become in those organizations such as the National Society of Black Engineers. I had to put that plug in. And they become an engineer, and they come back and say, I remember, Tiffany, when you came and talked to me about becoming that, and they're leaders now. So the impact that I make, I think, is the biggest thing that's encouraged me for the work that I do.
Fantastic. And so this is just such a thrill to me to see this. And I'm just thinking, so I just have so many questions about the STEM book.
Okay.
And you said that kids are coming back to you, and they're being successful in that. I'm just thinking, do you have like maybe a success story from this, or kids that you've made that have read that book that you're now mentoring, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. I get the different parents that post and they send me pictures, and a lot of times when they're reading the book, seeing the kids reading the book, and then they say, I do a lot of book readings, and so now I've had to do a lot of virtuals, but just seeing all the kids come up to me, I had to get used to that too. That was an adjustment. I was like, oh my God, it's a lot of kids. Now with COVID, it's a whole different thing, but virtually. Yeah. But when I started off with the book, that was encouraging. But just to see the support system from a lot of my friends, sorority and everything, and my links and all that, just seeing all the support from my family and everything. But then to see the impact that I'm making with the customers and the readers, to see the kids reading it, see them saying, yes, they see themselves, and they come back and they say, yeah, I want to be a robotics engineer. I want to be a veterinarian. A lot of them are like, oh, you like the animals? They're like, yeah. So they could see themselves in it. And so those have been those testimonies of now they can say what they want to be, and they're starting early to see it. And I think that has been the biggest thing. Now, who knows this is a younger age, but definitely success stories will be great to see as they grow up and see the impact that it's making. So I'm planting the seed, and I think that's the biggest part that I'm learning from it.
That's right. Latrina says, hello, Latrina.
Hey, Latrina.
One of our co-authors, also shining in this light. I wanted to say also to you, Tiffany, have you ever thought of maybe leading in the university realm? furthering your education and maybe being a dean someday? Because it seems like you would be a perfect fit for something like that.
Well, maybe you are planting seeds. Who knows? Maybe you're speaking stuff to existence. Who
Maybe.
knows? Who knows? But I appreciate you for putting it out in the atmosphere. So I
Yes.
don't know. But I do see that there's a value and there's a need. If I was to look at something, I definitely would continue to tie in the STEM aspect of it. So thank you for seeing it in me. Hey, I love it.
Yeah.
But but I do love the work that I do. But I do value the importance of education. I value the importance of encouraging more. And so, hey, the sky's the limit. Who knows what the future holds? So I thank you for planting the seed. Who knows? But I do see the value of it. I see the importance of leadership more than ever, especially in the diversity aspect and female leadership. So all these percentages that's being mentioned, yes, I do want to see it being. I want to see it more. And so definitely from a women of color, women leadership, I want to see that more than ever. So with those percentages, only 2% of Black women have a career in engineering. Yes, I want to see more of it. And so if you see me trying to educate and encourage more, hey, the sky's the limit. So I appreciate you seeing it in me. But yeah, these numbers the statistics, we got to do better. And so
what can we do to change this stat here with only 20% are women and less than 4%? Do you think it's opportunity? Do you think do we need to have scholarships for women in engineering? Do we need to have, I know you mentioned exposure. What are your thoughts about what we need to do here?
The mentoring, the representation, the encouragement, the allies. When I say allies, that's the men, the ones that needs to speak up. Speak up when you don't see something happening right. Speak up. Be able to speak on the behalf, the sponsors. Be that one in that room speaking for these women. And then us women, that's in the fields, go back. Don't think you have arrived once you became this. Like I said, anything could happen. And so you got to be humble because it could be taken away just like that. And so paying it forward is key. We that are already in there, I think going back and talking to these women, encouraging women, starting early, I think is going to be key to try to increase that numbers. Yes. Exposing them to organizations like the Society of Women Engineers, exposing them to the National Society of Black Engineers, the Hispanic engineers. Exposure, opportunities, hands-on activities, seeing and empowering, telling them they're beautiful and they are just as smart, brains and beauty. Telling them early that they are just as capable and competent, I think is going to be the key. If we can get it going earlier on, is where I say these numbers increase.
And I think it's funny that you said that. I agree 150%. When you talked about mentors and representation and having advocacy and sponsors, I think of the dominant race in engineering, I would assume would be white, and then dominant gender is male, correct?
Mm-hmm. White males, yes.
So it seems like we would have to have more white males choose to begin to seek out women of color that they could, and males, men of color, but women of color that they could advocate for.
Agreed.
And maybe they're just not comfortable with that. Maybe they don't know how to start that process. So do you have any last nuggets of wisdom for that audience of white males that they see there's a need, but they don't know how to break down any barriers, or they might not know how to go about that process?
Right. And now more than ever, we see a lot of diversity inclusions happen, chief officers and all of that now more than ever. So taking advantage of this opportunity while it's happening right now, I think is the biggest thing. The unconscious bias. There's different tests out there to learn the unconscious bias, implicit bias. I mean, understanding that is going to be key.
Yes.
And it's all about knowledge. Once you know, you do better. I mean, now. So what are you going to do? And I think that's the biggest thing of go through training. I mean, if the training is needed, get the training if you really want to make some difference and make a difference. I mean, at the end of the day, you gotta want to, and it's gotta be in your heart. And empathy plays a role with it. Have some empathy. I think that's important too. be empathetic. So yeah,
Yes.
that's what I would say for that.
Wow. And my heart goes out to every person, of European descent that has ever advocated for a person of color, even particularly in my own life. Mwah, love all of y'all. And, and even any males that have ever advocated for a woman, thank you. My heart just says thank you so much for those that are open-minded and that are considering diversity and are protecting those that they work with or those that they do business with that don't look like them,
Mhm.
And so, wow. Did you have any other words that you wanted to say?
I mean, we all have to work together. We all are here to make a difference. We have a purpose in life. What is your purpose? I know my why. I know I'm here for a purpose to make a difference and pay it forward and bring up some more. We got to lift up. And I think that's the biggest thing, and not forget where you come from. And so I'm not here for, I mean, somebody else paved the way for me. And that's the biggest thing. And so I want to pay it forward for others. And representation, I'm gonna go back to that. Seat at the table. We got to have everybody having a seat at the table. And I think the more we talk about it and encourage more to be a part of it, I think that's going to help from a dialogue standpoint. So this is, I mean, I'm just glad to be able to put it out there, to be the example, be the role model for STEM representation at its best.
Excellent. Well, Tiffany, this has been fantastic having you on the show. Thank you so much for being on the Real Talk Show with Dr. India White. And if you guys are interested in reaching out to Tiffany, you can reach her at tiffanyteachy.com. Also, you can contact her on Facebook at Tiffany Teachy. Also, she's got some social media.
Yep, Instagram and Twitter, Tiffany Teachy.
And Twitter, right, is also Tiffany Teachy. Very, very simple, all the same. And you can find her books on there. And so I'm so excited about the work that you are doing in the area of STEM. STEM is the topic of the hour. And so I just want to say thank you so much that you did decide to give back and pay it forward. And so with that said, guys, please reach out to Tiffany. If you're wanting her books, if you're wanting mentoring, any type of other collaboration and other services, she will be here for you guys. And so with that said, I'm going to just say thank you so much again, Tiffany, for being a part of the Real Talk Show. Thank you for being a co-author of Pretty, Paid, and Powerful book collaboration. And I'm sure we have so many other things coming down the pipe with that. And so with that said, guys, I'm going to wrap up the show. Make sure you tune in next week to the Real Talk Show. Make sure you tune in on Swain Girl Media channel. Make sure you guys also tune in on the www.soulnet WKDH radio station as well to see this replay of the Real Talk Show. I'm looking forward to connecting with each of you guys again. And again, thank you so much, Tiffany, and have a wonderful night. We appreciate
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Take care, guys.
All right.
Bye.